Well, let's start off with kind of the premise. Why is the district attorney looking at budgets of other agencies?
Right.
And I'd answer that with one, I don't really want to be doing that. And the other is I think that is a very good question. And I would phrase it kind of a little bit the other way is, why aren't people other than the district attorney taking the time to look and see where the taxpayer dollars are going as we levy taxes annually and doing a deep dive into every single tax that we're asking the hardworking citizens of this parish to dig into their pockets, pull their money out, and give it to the government to help make their lives better, because that's what government's for. Government's not for government and making government agencies better. Government is to make people's lives better and provide critical needs.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Today, I'm here with my partner, Lauren, and the St. Tammany Parish District Attorney, Mr. Collin Sims, who's turned into a good friend. We've done this a couple of times now. It's the third time you've been on. I think you've been most seen on the podcast.
I might have to cut y'all off soon.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. But I'm excited, and I'll get it kicked off today because this is a little bit of a unique conversation. We talk a lot about on this podcast that, our person that we are trying to help and impact is a business owner, a family in this community that is looking to accomplish everything that they've set out and dreamed to accomplish. And we believe that in order for somebody to accomplish those things, the community has to provide the space for them to do that. The community has to be a big enough place for you to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish, unless you're going to try to be far reaching. But our business is something that's local, and we want to make the impact here, right? And so, we interview nonprofits and community leaders that are doing things within the community to make our community a better place. And truly, I think a lot of business owners go to work, their kids go to school, and they don't consider what goes into making this community such a gem. Because we're lucky enough. I mean, I'm not from here, but I've lived in several parishes in the state since I've grown up.
You got a taste, though. You haven't left.
And look, I have no intention of leaving. It really is the best place that I've lived in this state, right? I love it here. You've been here for a long time, right?
Whole life. Besides law school and college.
You too, right?
Same.
Yeah, same. So, I know this place means a lot to you guys, too. And so I want to take this opportunity to educate people in our community, right? We've had some things come up over the last couple of months, and the last election, it was a big deal whenever one of the things on the docket got turned down. Yeah. And Lauren talked a lot about it last year. She wanted to educate people. We need to let people know what this is about. And to be honest with you, I, head in the sand, was starting a new business, got young kids. I was just running in that direction, and I didn't pay a ton of attention to it. I like to say I voted the right way, but I want to take this opportunity to educate people more. And I know you have a very strong opinion on what's going on, and I know that everybody's coming from a good place. We're trying to help educate people, but also make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position that we can't come back from as a parish. And so y'all know a lot more about this than I do. I'm here to learn. I'm going to try to ask questions to bring it down, right? I went to law school like you did and like you did. And
wait, you have a law degree?
I am specialized in making something complicated very simple, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to be sitting in a chair of law degree. So I'm going to be asking some questions just to make sure that I understand, but I also want to get into the details a little bit so people who know a little bit about it maybe see a different perspective.
Sure.
So let's kind of start with, and I'll let you kind of introduce the topic of conversation today.
Yeah, I think you already hit the nail on the head. We know that there's a problem with the budget for our parish. I think that there's a lot of noise, and then I think there's some facts. And so our goal would be to display any of the facts that we can, whether it's coming from you, whether it's coming from another organization, another candidate. I think what the public needs is good information that can help them make decisions that will help our parish move forward. And we need the public to care about that. And we need the public to be able to trust the information and the people that are providing that information, right? And I think that by now, I think a lot of people have heard that you have been doing your own investigation, right? Or partnering with individuals that are doing that investigation because you have a little job, that you have to do during the day. So I think starting just with exactly who you're partnering with, how you're partnering, what information you're finding, and what the goal is. Because I think the biggest relief that I hear when I speak to anyone that's in a position of power or leadership in our government, in our area, is just to make sure that they're solution oriented. And I can genuinely say that I think you are leading with solutions first, and that's what's important to me, right? We can get into the weeds. Everybody has their opinions on how we get there, and hopefully we'll get their opinions too so people can make that decision. But talk to me about what you're trying to do and what solutions you think may be available. Very loaded question.
Yeah, there's a couple in there, a couple questions. Let's start off with kind of the premise. Why is the district attorney looking at budgets of other agencies?
Right.
And I'd answer that with one, I don't really want to be doing that. And the other is I think that is a very good question. And I would phrase it kind of a little bit the other way is, why aren't people other than the district attorney taking the time to look and see where the taxpayer dollars are going as we levy taxes annually and doing a deep dive into every single tax that we're asking the hardworking citizens of this parish to dig into their pockets, pull their money out, and give it to the government to help make their lives better, because that's what government's for. Government's not for government and making government agencies better. Government is to make people's lives better and provide critical needs. So
audits are good.
Audits are good.
But if no one's doing them, somebody's got to step in.
Right. And an audit is an audit, right? Audit needs to also look at, well, what are other parishes doing? What are other states doing? Because an audit's going to tell you what? That you are, in fact, spending the people's money on the subject matter for which it's for. Doesn't necessarily tell you whether those are smart business decisions, bad business decisions, out of line with what everyone else is doing. So starting off with, well, what is the problem? Why do we need to look other than just being generally fiscally responsible? Well, I have been advised by the parish that starting next year, and actually it exists now, but there's one-time money staving it off, that this parish in its general fund, and we'll explain what that means in a minute, will be $20 million annually deficient for paying for all the things that depend on it based upon current budgets. So the budget of the DA's office, the judiciary, the jail, the justice center, one day the coroner's office, and other state mandates rely upon this general fund that is funded by $15.6 million annually.
Can I ask you a general question?
Yeah.
So the money that we are talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about operating an organization, just like a business. There's expenses and there's income coming in, right? The income's the tax dollars. There's two ways to meet the budget. Mm-hmm. There's to generate more money or to cut your expenses, right? And a lot of people think that generating more money means to tax more.
Right.
But as the parish expands, that general fund could have more funds in it as the community expands, right? More people here to pay more taxes.
And part of cutting expenses can also be reallocating expenses.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
As well.
And the money that we're talking about is coming from property tax and sales tax for this.
Property taxes and sales taxes. And the reality in this parish is about, 90-some-odd% of all taxes are dedicated and spoken for, meaning that they can only be legally spent on the things that the voters, the people, have approved them for. Nothing else. You can't move any money around. One of the examples that I jokingly gave, I think it was at a chamber event a long time ago, was, imagine your household. You've got a vacation fund, you've got your mortgage fund, kids that you haven't even had yet. You've decided how much money is going to go into their college fund, light bill fund. First job, you've decided how all that money is going to be allocated for now in the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden, your escrow goes up, property taxes grow up, and all that, and you can't make any changes for these decisions. You're going to go to the Bahamas no matter whether you can afford it or not, and you can lose your home. Mm-hmm. And you can't move the Bahama money into I got to pay my mortgage money. That is St. Tammany's situation. You've got a general fund that has an alimony tax that generates about, $8 million annually, then other revenues that stream into the general fund that add up to 15.6. Every other of the of the hundreds of millions of dollars is all spoken for and done.
And when you say that there, you said 90% of it is spoken for and done.
90
That means
plus,
that
yeah.
90+% of it, if you look at your property tax assessment, it's going to have 90% of that's going to go towards specific places, and then you're going to have 10% of that goes into the general fund that's used for the state mandated required things like your DA, like your jail, like your coroner's office, like your judges and things like that.
Yeah, so you bring an example of, and I don't know if you can see this, it's not, you don't need to worry about what it says, but everything listed on here is spoken for. And it adds up to about 400 and something million. This is just your property taxes. There's a small 2.89 mills, they call it. That goes into the alimony tax. It's rural, it's 2.89. If it's in the city, it's 1.44. That creates your 15.6 plus the other things, everything else. So 400 million plus spoken for. 15 million not spoken for. And so over time, you'd say, okay, so why are we just now getting to the point where we are $20 million in the hole? Well, since 2018, the parish has lost renewable tax measures. The 2% jail and justice center fund that was designed to build the justice center, gone. That generated in today's dollars like 30-something million annually. Public health millage, we let that lapse. That's gone. That was 5.6 million.
And that means that we voted for that. That was put into your millage rate. That was allocated to getting those things organized, and it was only for a certain amount of years, and those years are up. So now that is going away, and now that money's not there. But once the Justice Center was built, that fund was used to help support the Justice Center in general, right?
Well, so what happened is that going back multiple parish presidents ago, everyone knew that the general fund is deficient in paying all the state mandated expenses, the things that we just talked about. So what happened? They started using the Jail and Justice Center fund that was originally passed to build the Jail and Justice Center and maintain those buildings to basically pay for the things that the general fund was deficient on. Well, I think people over time found out about it. They decided to put the renewal back on as if they were going to put it on for the total amount. Well, the total amount was to build a building that exists now, right? They didn't lower it. Then all of a sudden it fails. Then they cut it in half and telling themselves like, whoa, maybe we didn't need it all. You lose credibility every single time. Every time.
Every time they find a new bucket,
Right.
they've lost credibility, which is what you heard a lot about in the latest election.
Correct. And now your coroner's office has been the latest thing to lose their funding. And they run out of money in 2027 at some point. And then we're going to lose the DNA lab next that we've built that we rely upon to do our jobs. So when you add all those things since 2018, it's 50 million annually less available to pay for the things that government relied upon to be available to pay for these things that no longer exists.
Yeah.
So they've spent these one-time money fund balances down to here we are sitting here at a meeting the beginning of this year saying, DA, we're cutting your criminal department 30% starting January 1. For me, that's almost $2 million. Judges, we're cutting you 30%. Jail, we're cutting you 30%. And by the way, the following year, it'll be 55%. So that'll go down in I brought these with me. So in 2027, we'll go from, currently I receive $6.2 million from the parish annually in St. Tammany. Also funded by Washington Parish, also have state revenues, and also have other DA revenues. The total approximate operating budget for the DA's office right now is about $9.7 million. St. Tammany Parish funds 6.2 of that, roughly. You're going to cut the investment in 2027 from 6.2 down to 2.79 million. Okay. Next year, when it's only 30%, I'll have 3 times less funding than Jefferson and Orleans.
So when you say that you're going to have in your department, you're going to have less funding, that means that you have less resources to pay your staff, to do your investigations, to pay other agencies to support what you have going on? So
the expenses of the DA's office are about 89% salaries and benefits. I don't have equipment. I have a group of cars that we lease annually that I'm currently paying for by actual drug money, asset forfeiture money from the federal government because of those relationships. I have 2 years worth of funding to pay those expenses. I am holding and have been holding, even since I was criminal chief for Mr. Montgomery, we made a decision a long time ago that we'd hold vacancies. Been holding between 9 and 14 vacancies for almost 3 years.
So what are the practical consequences of that long term that you see?
Just more long term, more stress, more work on fewer people. And then as it continues, and we start making these cuts, I mean, you get to a point, if you hit 55%, I don't think you can name an organization that can take that level of cut and act like, and you hear people, live within your means. I can run this organization on the amount of money that I'm receiving now, probably for the next 10 years. I will save with current budget, because I've held these vacancies, I will save almost $1 million this year. Why am I doing that? Imagine being told every year that the fiscal cliff is here. And I've been told that since 2018 when I was criminal chief. Am I going to go staff and go entice people to come work for us to know that, well, if this fiscal cliff hits, I'm going to be firing people? That wouldn't be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That'd be a horrible thing
But I
to
mean,
do.
are you talking like investigations sitting in longer periods of time in our community, not having the people that need to be prosecuted efficiently?
No, I think it's more about the prosecutions and concluding those investigations. So law enforcement is fully funded by dedicated funding,
Okay.
right? So all your municipalities have funding. The sheriff has dedicated funding. He doesn't have funding for his jail, but he's got dedicated funding for the things that trigger arrests that cause me to do work. And then I do work and charge cases, and then I cause the judges to do work. So the 2/3 of the system, arrest, formal charging and prosecution, adjudication by the judges. 2 of the pegs of the 3-legged stool don't have dedicated funding. And we rely upon this general fund that we're being told is $20 million deficient to fund our current budgets. We're not asking for more money. Everyone's like, well, I had this one person message that said, well, he ran on saying he doesn't need more. I don't need more. I just can't lose 55%
Yeah.
of our current parish funding. And what's crazy is you think about, I'm the DA for 2 parishes, Washington and St. Tammany. Washington Parish they are a very hard, proud group of people. They are one of the poorest parishes in the state of Louisiana. Washington Parish can pay the appropriate portion of the district attorney's budget. An affluent St. Tammany can't. And they can't pay for their judges, and they can't pay for their jail. And they will, by default, by inaction, implode this entire system, which is one of the cornerstone reasons that people live here. Education, I hear, is number 1, and safety is number 2.
100%, yeah.
And so at any given time, I have about 280 major sex cases pending trial. We've built this unbelievable task force with the Attorney General's office in partnership with the Hope House. I think this year, Thomas had said we have a 100% efficacy rate by not losing a case in that arena.
Wow.
He came to the last budget meeting in the council with all the buttons that represent all the kids that have been helped. And you start looking, and in my opinion, what could be more important than these buttons?
100%.
Nothing. And then we started a whole program going after dealers that sell opioids and fentanyl, and built this entire task force group. Again, these are unique things that have happened in this parish. And if you ask the head of DEA, if you ask the head of state police, most of your DA's offices haven't built something like this. And it's not just us building it, it's this partnership that we've built. Yeah. I couldn't be more proud of what we've built. Really can't.
Yeah.
It's very exciting to me. It's what I've been doing since I was 25. And to know that since we built that task force on the opioids, the overdose rate of people dying from opioids and overdoses has gone from from both parishes combined. There were about 120 between 120 and 115 overdose deaths in St. Tammany over the last 2 years, every year annually. So one was 120. This past year was about 115. And in Washington Parish, it was 46 overdose deaths. Year to date, Washington Parish is down to, and we're almost finished with the year, 17, 18.
Wow.
St. Tammany Parish, 36.
Wow.
So I really believe through a whole lot of things that the partnerships, both in response, in prosecution, in deterrence, in education, in treatment, all of that has resonated in this phenomenal result. And we're sitting here getting ready to gut it.
Yeah. So going back up above the trees a little bit. So the problem that we're discussing today is that there's not enough funding to fund the general fund, right?
Yes.
The taxpayer dollars going to all those other places,
Flush with cash.
it's sufficient
Beyond
for
sufficient.
those different entities, and so all of those different organizations. What are their opinions on what we're talking about today? I mean,
I think it's a problem. I've had the head of some major funded taxing districts to say we want to help, and the thing is that I appreciate it, very much, because they look at it and say, it's not my DA's office. It's our DA's office. It's our ability to protect our community. So school system head Frankie Jabbia met myself, Chris Kaufman, Randy Smith. We all sit down and did a PowerPoint presentation. We went over it, and everyone's like, this is a problem. And for those guys to say, we would like to help and figure out with legal, what are the mechanisms about how we can help? And you sit here and say, the guys who are receiving dedicated tax funds, even if they want to help, are legally barred from helping. And so that's problematic. And so we sit here.
But I do want to highlight and point out
Yeah.
that they're in agreement.
Oh, yeah.
And that they want to help. And
Yes.
what does their help look like? Information.
Oh, yeah.
Providing information, right? Showing the books,
Yes.
answering the questions, participating.
Yep.
Because
what's
as
the-
we go through this and as you go through, and I'm not saying this is what you're trying to do, but from the outside looking in, it looks like you're just trying to say, all right, let's look underneath this hood.
Right.
Let's look underneath that hood to see how we can collaborate to get to a better resolution, right? It's
Yes.
not, hey, let's blow up department by department. Or is that your goal? You tell me.
No, the only thing, so I'd say this. You start with the premise that the taxpayers have said we're taxed out. We're not going to give you more revenue.
So that solution's out.
Well, it's not. You say a solution. You'd say that's if you start with the premise that the taxpayers give us enough money,
Right.
and you'd say, okay, well, is it just in some of the wrong places?
Which we can't raise. Us being in the real estate industry, we can't.
No.
People are struggling right now. And Jared saved a foreclosure property today and got it transferred to a hands of
Correct.
somebody else. Like we see that effect. So that's out. So what's next?
So if you conclude they're not going to give you more money, what do you have to do? You have to figure out how to look at what are the true needs in the current deck of cards. So if you look at all these dedicated funds or a deck of cards, what is everyone's real needs? Why hasn't there not been a dialogue to sit down and say, hey guys, we've got a global problem here. Can we help? Can we get together? Can we figure out what everyone's needs are? You look at Tangipahoa. They just lost a tax in Tangipahoa for they're dying over there with the funding level for their law enforcement. But what's the problem? Everyone wants to, and we've done it too many times, ask first, save later. So as opposed to, why don't we review everything and start saying, okay, we can reduce the millage for some of these different things. You do a substantive assessment, evidence-based. Let's look at what we're spending money on. Can we do it differently? Can we save $1 million here, $2 million there? And if you aggregated that, would it be enough to offset, or at least so you can now have a real dialogue, having looked, because you got to look first, having looked to say, now citizens, can we have a discussion? Can we have a discussion about needing to move some of these things around now that we've actually looked and we've restored credibility with you by lowering your taxes first and asking to have a dialogue second? And I don't think that's happened. And I joke around and quote my uncle all the time. We didn't talk for a year when we were trying to do this rededication. And he said, nephew, we got jogging trails to nowhere around here, okay? And everyone wants to come in my pocket and ask me for money, but no one wants to go cut first. Great, I appreciate your dedicated fund problem. This is when Mr. Montgomery is going for a tax for the DA's office. I appreciate you don't have funding, but the answer isn't more money out of my pocket. The answer has got to be being more efficient in other places and doing the hard work of looking. And so we sat here and you said, well, why are you looking? I go back to,
Because we don't want to ask you for more money out of your pocket?
don't want to ask more money in your pocket. And I didn't hear a solution on the table after being told you're being cut 30%. That wasn't anything different of, will you go support another tax effort?
Right.
No, I'm not doing that. Not until we save money first.
Data, right?
Again, going back to my first example or my question,
Right.
You can either ask for more money or you can cut expenses or reallocate money that's flushed out one place and put it in a bucket that needs a little bit more money.
Well, remember, you can't reallocate unless it's by a vote of the people.
So that was my question. The solution is ultimately that when we come to another election, we got to have the data present to people.
Right.
And right now, your objective is let's get the data so that whenever it comes to another vote, that we can actually have information to provide for people to make the right decision for our parish.
Twofold: data, and then take action on the data and reduce millages and tax burden so that you can then go educate and have a conversation and show people, look, we looked at, and look, I know we're going to get into it. We looked at mosquito abatement district, right? And it was determined through evidence and information that, hey, an organization that's operating on about 10 million annually can probably get away with operating for under 7 or 7.5 or 8, whatever the number is. Okay. Take it. We just saved the taxpayers $2 million. Move on to the next thing. Right. And at some point, tabulate either the actual savings that you're acting on as you go through, or the tabulated potential savings that you can take action on and highlight to the taxpayer, we saved you first. Mm-hmm. Okay, we went through it. We did something that hadn't been done before. We went through it and said needs versus wants. Mm-hmm.
So
what are the true needs?
What would be practically, again, going back to practically, what would a person who runs a specific department in the government, why would they not want you to look under the hood?
I have no idea.
Some of them are saying, sure.
A lot of them are saying sure. Many of them have said, you can look at whatever you want.
And see, I'm not hearing that. I think some people assume that, they're unwillingly providing documentation. And you're saying that you have their collaboration.
Almost every one of the taxing districts that I've talked to has said, we're an open book. One even said, we would like you to come in and use us as an example and come look. And I say, I don't need to be doing this, right? Government someone else besides the DA.
Well, who's helping you with this endeavor right now?
Well, so when we looked at, looking at the mosquito district as an example, and I do want to talk about that particular endeavor.
Okay, so why was that selected?
Well, because it seemed to be a singular mission entity, right, to abate mosquitoes, control the population of mosquitoes. It had dedicated funding, and a quick skim of it demonstrated that they're spending $3 million more than any other parish in the state of Louisiana, and there was no annual oversight control that the council had to even annually look at the budget before it was spent. So we said, okay, let's look at this. They have dedicated funding. And one of the things that also is an example is to say, here's something like, and this is Collin's opinion, here's something like mosquito abatement that could easily be a department of parish government. I'm not saying it should be, I'm not saying it needs to be, it could.
So you're just saying an idea of a potential solution.
Yeah. And these guys have dedicated funding. Does anyone in this parish realize that there's no dedicated funding for your judiciary, your district attorney, and all these things, and that you rely upon something that doesn't have the funding by $20 million to fund, but yet we have dedicated funding for these things that are not mandatory?
So selected as an outlier for that
as an
distinction,
example. Well,
because
it
had dedicated funding.
Correct. And it's if the funding is out of whack, if the spending is out of whack, then you sit here and say, here's an example of a dedicated fund that doesn't have the proper oversight, that is a symptom of a tax structure problem that is overfunded and is contributing to the feeling of the taxpayer to say, when you add this in conjunction with the other $400 million, I feel overtaxed. Mm-hmm. And if this is one small thing that has a $10 million budget and it has the ability to operate with $3 million less or $2 million less, why is no one looking at that first to give me relief with all of these things?
Yeah.
And so if you conclude that this is happening here, well, where else is it happening? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but there should be an evidence-based, systematic approach to look at all of the documents. And you say the business group. So who do we partner with? So we built out a team originally. There's a parish council committee, government efficiency committee that sits now. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that this group external to that, whatever they were going to call themselves, it went from track, it went to this, and they kind of settled on this particular format. And so this group would operate outside of that, but report back to that efficiency group that's made up of council members so that they can digest the information, to report. So as an example, sitting on this table is a 30-page report. That binder are supporting documents for every single finding in the report. And all of these documents are public record documents held by the Mosquito Abatement District.
That binder's giving me PTSD.
It's huge.
It's a big binder.
You pull a disc trying to carry it up here. Yeah. But that's the level of review you're talking about, to be very detailed. I'm not an expert in mosquito abatement. I am an expert fact finder. I've been doing it since I was 25. I've looked at banks. I've looked at cartels. I've looked at financial fraud, public corruption, you name it. Me and the team who I've worked with historically are very good at tracking down money and telling you how it's spent. I can't tell you if it's appropriate to spend the money on chemical XJ75. That's not my job. Or splicing larvae. None of that's my job. My job is good at finding facts and providing it to people to either get other experts to consult with based upon the facts found or others in the field. So bottom line is, not only did it was people from my office, but two of the individuals from our office are former FBI agents, one of which by trade was a certified public accountant, did white collar historically for the FBI for 30 years. I don't want to shortchange them on their experience, but in that arena, a ballpark. The other specialized in public corruption, did every major case from Walter Reed, Peter Galvin, started Latoya Cantrell, Nagin, you name it. He has been a critical agent of those cases. He and I partnered. We got to know each other when I did Jack Strain trial. He did the federal investigative side of the work release halfway house program. These are experts.
But you say all of that. I want to be clear. You're saying all that to say they're experts.
Yep.
Not because you're thinking that there is wrongdoing or criminal activity that you're going over. So in a utopian world, right? Yeah. We look at this 6 months from now and you're like, out of all the flack, that was a success and I'm glad we did it. What does that look like?
You mean when we're finished? I hope it looks like getting control and oversight of something that doesn't have sufficient oversight, annual review of their budgets, a reduction of the millage permanently to an area where it needs to be. Look, already there was conversation in this particular review, right? This particular review demonstrated a handful of things, and let's go over them real quick. The review demonstrated we spend $3 million more than any other parish in the state of Louisiana. Over the last several years, there's $14 million in cash being spent on an $8 million upgrade and expansion to build a laboratory. The laboratory then has to be staffed and has 500,000 researchers and technical employees working for it. And they're doing now all their in-house testing with this lab. Why? Well, up until this year, this is the first full year where we didn't just send our testing exhibits to LSU. LSU charged us $37,000 a year to test the mosquito test. Now we're doing it internally and don't use LSU at 37. To do that, we built an $8 million lab, staffed it 500,000 in personnel plus. Every single test kit, irrespective of those additional expenses, cost us twice as much as what it cost at LSU because LSU is subsidized.
Did they expect it to be income producing? Is that why?
Can't be, because every test kit by itself costs you twice as much, not including the labor. Just the test kit itself costs you twice as much money as the ones at LSU. So no, it can't be an income
And that's
producer.
independent decisions. And so your goal would be able to have some oversight by the council.
My goal would be
the ultimate
before we
goal.
spend $14 million in taxpayer cash, someone explain to me why we're making that investment. Whether you decide to make the investment or not is up to the people who have been elected to do that. But the fact that those conversations aren't happening before $14 million goes out the
council.
door to the council is a problem to me. $4 million helicopter, problem to me. Cash. We already have 2 planes. I understand they serve different purposes and don't want to get into that, but you have a massive facility out here that has almost $40 million in assets at this point to spray for mosquitoes at almost $10 million a year. You've got employee benefits, healthcare. There is zero employee contribution to employee and complete family dependent healthcare. Not $1 contributed. That doesn't happen anywhere else in this parish or this state that I'm remotely aware of. I think it barely ever happens in the private sector to not have $1
I'm
contributed.
proud that we pay 100% of the employee, but they pay their dependents.
Right.
Wow.
So 100% dependent.
I thought we were doing good.
You're doing phenomenal. But you have part-time employees qualify for tuition reimbursement over here. We are paying relocation expenses to people who come work in our district.
Right.
And you got the average salaries and benefits package over here is $117,000 a year.
So again, it's just a review of an outlier and asking for more parties, more elected officials to be involved in the decision-making process. Is that correct?
There's no elected officials involved in this.
So
Currently, but the solution would be, right? You know, because what I want to be clear on is a lot of people are really good at saying, hey, there's a fire over here.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help anybody.
No.
It doesn't help anybody. And if anything, we already have the mistrust.
Correct.
Right? And so if anything, the road to a solution is what's important to me that I think the people need to hear.
Yeah, I think
And
it's backed
that
on facts and
is-
evidence.
And so you intend, I mean, you tell me, use this data to say we need more oversight. This is why we need more oversight, and
Honestly,
we
that's not
can
even my
push
job.
that to the council.
That's not even my job. My job is to be a fact finder and give you the data that you need to make informed decisions in this particular task. I'm not elected to decide what you should or shouldn't do. Taxpayer me says, you better have some oversight, right? Taxpayer me wants you to have oversight of where my tax dollars are going and get control of why we're spending $3 million more than any other parish in the state, twice as much in salaries and benefits than the next comparable parish,
Yep.
and get a handle on this and start lowering taxes so we can have a real conversation about the things that aren't paid for in this parish that protect the entire identity of this place. And if this is an example of that, it is. And to the point of even looking. Presently, the Mosquito District, again, and look at the Mosquito District, they have a board that's appointed by the parish, right? Parish president makes one appointment, parish council makes 4 appointments to the board who's supposed to be overseeing all of this. If someone from the board is not asking the right questions, then we got the wrong people on there, beginning and end of the conversation. And so you'd say, okay, great. We're going to look at public record documents and assess all of this. The board members approve a lawsuit against the parish to enjoin them from looking at anything. They say, hey, parish council who appoints us, we're going to sue you to prevent you from looking at any of our financials, which are public record documents that John Q. Citizen is entitled to.
That suit's active in the public record now?
That lawsuit is filed and active in the public record. And so you've now sued the people who appoint you, who are the actual elected people, because no one over here is elected. You can't look at us, even though we have 10 million taxpayer dollars that we're going to spend. Stop looking. And to y'all's point earlier, what are you worried about?
Yeah.
It's not your money. It's our money. I've testified. I've seen comments, open up your books. I've actually testified under oath about our budget when I was criminal chief. And so did the business person. And the parish elected to settle a lawsuit and give the DA's office an additional amount of money to then find ourselves being sued the next year to determine what is the legal minimum amount of money we actually have to give you. And then now forget all that. We can't afford to pay any of it anyway because the general fund doesn't have any money in it and the general fund is deficient. That's where I think a lot of this got off the rails, is the starting point. The starting point is you have a freight train coming at this parish with a general fund that is 20 million deficient in paying its current responsibilities and budgets. The parish has actually signed mine saying your current budget are in fact the reasonable and necessary expenses of your office. They've acknowledged that, but we can't pay it.
Yep. So if you, like, when we talk about our organization, we always talk about getting down to like the real root issue of what's going on. And again, me learning about all this really today, which shows how naive I am, but maybe also what I relate to probably a lot of people who are listening to this conversation who don't know a ton about this whole conversation. But like, it seems to me like the root issue is that we don't have enough transparency in the information and where the money's being spent. That's one of the issues. And the second issue is we don't have the means and method and way of communicating this clearly to the taxpayer so that they know what the issue is and how to solve the problem. Because it seems to me like it's a very simple thing, right? We need to be able to know where the money's being spent on and the entities that we're funding with our tax dollars.
Simple to identify, complex to fix.
For sure. I'm just trying to keep it simple, right? The simplicity is...
Can you imagine putting this on a mailer?
Yeah, I'm sure.
You can't.
I agree.
That's why the election didn't go
well. Look,
well
I have a
on
lot
Mailer.
of opinions on how politicians run their elections and how they could be clearer and make things easier for people to see because they're all trying to do these political speeches while they're arguing with somebody else.
Exactly what you're saying is what the PAC believes and what Collin believes, and they're independently doing that and trying to disseminate, and I don't want to speak for you, but disseminate that information in a way for the public.
But the issue, I get to my root issue, the information's not there, but I think the root issue is we don't have a system in which we're checking and auditing these things anyway. Like who in the government, like nobody's told me, said who is actually looking at this stuff to tell us the information. I know that this particular entity is saying you can't look, but there's other entities that are saying you can, and they're overfunded. So am I getting into a different conversation that we're not going to talk about today?
Officials of those departments and the parish council.
Yeah.
And then the parish president overseeing.
Yeah, and I'm not here saying that all these different dedicated taxing things are overfunded. What I'm saying is I don't know if anybody knows.
That's what I'm saying. The information, there's no system of auditing to be able to identify which one has enough
Well, I
money.
think there's something to be said over time that I watch happen, and you see it happen on boards as well, that everybody is either busy or that's not. My teamwork analogy I give to a lot of businesses that we represent, or I help them institute operating systems. We go over values.
Yeah.
Somebody tells me, teamwork is our value, and I'm
Family.
like, yay. Okay. It's one of the ones that I make them explain, though, because teamwork can be so detrimental by either assuming somebody else is doing the work and balls get dropped,
Yeah.
or somebody's doing double work.
Sure.
And I watch it happen on the government level, on board member levels, that everybody just assumes somebody's peaking.
It happens
And so,
within our
like,
organization
my
all the
friend
time,
says
too.
it's okay, so that's okay. I'm going to keep going. My friend says it's okay, let's keep going. Over and over again until we get so far down the road that no one's truly looked at it in a while.
Right.
Or are they equipped to look at it, right? You also bring people into government that have wonderful personalities and are incredibly likable.
Sure.
But what's their track record? And what's their skill level? I mean, this stuff comes down to truly understanding financials and books and allocations, and that is very subjective. So sometimes when I hear people talking about it, they have such good faith in their efforts, but yet they're misguided in their understanding. And so I think that's part of the problem as well. And I don't want that to be construed as I'm calling anyone ignorant. I think everybody has their gifts where they are, right? Like, you have incredible gifts for our organization. Do you run our finances?
No.
It's very intentional that you don't run our finances. Right?
Right.
I like spending money, Colin.
Well, and look, and it's where you get to kind of the overarching thing. Look, there are a lot of things that I'd say need to have dedicated funding. They need to be separate. They're so large, right? Fire is a large topic. It makes sense for those guys to be separate. The rec makes sense to be separate. It's a large organization. But geez, does everything have to be separate? How many things do we duplicate and waste? How many, and again, it's because I've looked at it. Why does the mosquito abatement district need their own public information officer? Why the parish government PIO can't get the message out about mosquito abatement? That's a $137,000 a year annual position. That person makes more than the Tulane University PIO, makes more than the parish government PIO. Why? Why do we have two of them? How many different organizations have PIOs? Well, but you think about it, how many IT supervisors, how many maintenance supervisors, and then God knows you get into other things. I mean, everything is duplicated. There is no efficiency in a lot of this, and it goes back to when we were a police jury system. And you had 14 districts, 14 this, everything's duplicated. Since you become a parish government in St. Tammany Parish 25 years ago, not one thing has been consolidated. Not one thing.
No push for efficiency.
Zero push for efficiency. And again, I know this
Jared knows
sounds...
how I feel about that.
Well, and I know, look, if I was on the other
It's
end
strict-
of the
it's
mosquito
business.
district, I'd be upset with me too, right? Why are you looking at us? It's not to look at you guys, and necessarily it's that someone's got to be first. It's an example of a tax structure problem. And in fairness to these guys, look, and in fairness to the director, his job is not to be the fiscal quarterback of the parish. His job is to worry about mosquito abatement. And I look at mosquito abatement kind of like research and development, right? Nobody puts R&D in charge of the company because they always have a reason to spend and have a justification. And you got to, hey guys, I appreciate you want to invest more money in R&D. We got to make payroll. And the problem is your parish, as a result of the structure, your parish has got to make payroll and it can't. And all these different things, these different entities and things, I've gotten flack by calling them fiefdoms. It's an intentional term because they are totally independent and sovereign on their own with their own money, worried about their own world, and not worried about the global fiscal health of the parish.
But in their defense,
It's not their
they
job.
feel the same way you feel in the sense of, I'm just doing what I'm allowed to do.
Agreed.
Because again, it's not mosquito abatement that's the problem.
It's a structure.
It's a broken system.
Right. And I would say not only
I
in their
think
defense,
that's
I would
really
agree with
important.
that.
I think that's really important because, in my opinion, when you're outside looking in, this is so flagrant, so politicized, right?
is.
There's a lot of emotion behind it. Is this an attack? Are you intending an attack on them?
No. And you have an entire, think about your tax structure. You're almost naturally pitted against each other, right?
Yeah.
If you look at that, you're looking at mine.
It's scarcity. It's a scarcity mentality, right?
Yes.
A limited mindset. We tell our kids that when they don't want to share, and I'm like, y'all spoiled brats. Y'all should have a mindset of abundance. Where's this mentality of scarcity? There is a mentality of scarcity here. There is not enough funds, right? So what do you think could bring y'all together to collaborate better?
Oh, I don't know. When you say there's not enough funds, I think I'd say a little bit tweak on that. I think there is enough revenue in the parish.
Good.
I think I think there is enough total revenue coming into the coffers of the parish. I think that it's just not allocated appropriately. And how you get to that point. So when you say we want to be
So we
solutions based.
need a good parent that teaches everybody to share, right?
Well, you need a good parent, and not of that, you need a good narrator. Because if you're John Q. Citizen, you drive down the road and you say, look at this new building, look at this development, look at this government structure, and you're saying, what do you mean you're broke? Look at all of the buildings and structures. How can you? I have more money coming out of my pocket post-assessment year once all of our property values went up. Why is more money coming out of my pocket than ever before, and you guys don't have enough money? They don't understand it because it's never been properly explained. And again, it's not anyone's fault necessarily because you can't put this in a 15-second, 30-second commercial. And the time that we're sitting down is the minimum investment necessary to truly understand the complexity of all of this. They're not all set up the same. They have different limitations. They have different oversight. Some are passed through. Some have an annual review. Some don't get looked at like mosquito except for once every 10 years when they need a renewal. They're all different.
Well, who's leading the charge to come to the table? You know, because the first thing that comes to mind right now is, all right, are you willing to have a conversation with mosquito abatement? Are you willing to have a conversation with the people that are willing to look under the hood? Who's next on the list? Can we start with a conversation first? Like, we don't have to be adversaries. So who's leading the charge of saying, hey, we may have enough money. Let's come together and see how we can make this work.
Yeah, I would encourage, well, first off, as a starting point, no matter what, it needs annual oversight by the people that are elected. That should be fixed no matter what. Two, I would say that the director, the board, so the parish council has their efficiency committee meeting on Thursday. I would hope that people that have $10 million in funding, if requested by that efficiency committee that's made up of all council members, that they would show up and go through a Q&A dialogue with the report, the findings. They've already released their response report. Now it's time to have a dialogue.
And how's that invitation going out? Because again, outside looking in, you know, I just spend a lot of time on leadership and how you get people motivated, you know, to be part of the solution, part of the cause. You know, how is that invitation going out? Is it a fearful invitation of, oh crap, you know, they're coming at me as an attack? Or is it like, y'all, we can do this. We can do this together. Come, show up. The questions are all geared towards the right place, which is a better St. Tammany.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not in charge of that. What I do know is that if you're appointed by the council and they say show up because we have a report and we're going to go through some questions and answers, you should show up. You're not an independently elected body. You're an employee of the parish. And when the bosses want to know how their money's being spent, you show up to the meeting and answer. You don't say, I'm not coming or maybe I may be there. The fact that that's a mindset is a problem.
Yeah.
And point problem. Should I be doing this? No, I'm not. But I ask people to at least consider, what would you do if you were the district attorney and you show up at a meeting and say, between this year and next, you're being gutted by 30 and 55%, which is pretty much a non-starter to effectively keep everyone safe. Do I sit here and be a victim of inaction, right? Or do I get involved and force the issue? I view, and I believe my predecessor viewed it the same way. I'm not here to get reelected. I don't want to not be reelected, please. But my point is that, you know, look, the easiest thing for me to do if I was just self-serving and in a place to get reelected is I'll just wait until I get reelected next year. That should give me enough time to make an argument. No, it's not enough time. This is happening now, and you see how complex this is. And you have to start explaining and making the case and taking action now, because it's going to take you a year, year and a half, 2 years to methodically go through this stuff, educate the public, and get to a real solution that does not increase their taxes. That's not going to happen. And so to sit here and play it safe and sit back and allow all this to happen and think that we can just play catch up is a mistake. And I would be a bad public servant to do that. And that's my opinion. People would say, stay in your own lane, stay out of it. Well, I'm about to be in the lane that's defunded.
And I also hear people say, you know, why is he doing this? Is it distracting him from his job? Well, one, you got to make sure your department's funded. So I do think it's partially part of your job. But what would you say to that comment?
Well, I would say I would rather not be spending time doing this. I'm hopefully a decent multitasker.
You still feel you're able to do your primary responsibilities?
Yeah, and I'd say the results demonstrate that I can. We will have reduced docket size with handling with charging 2 additional criminal divisions worth of cases district-wide annually than from 10 years ago. That additional volume and reducing the dockets from a high of 2,100 down into the 1,700s. I'm handling the additional volume, eating into the backlog, and building the types of programs that have all been built this year, right? Handling the task force for opioids, expanding the sex crime special victims unit to handle what it's handling, to have the efficacy rating that, don't listen to me, but a third party who has only one sole interest, which is the safety of children, is explaining that we've achieved. That doesn't happen if I'm distracted and can't do my job and haven't made sure that the right positions and pieces are in place. My ability to do my job and the job of the DA long term isn't on hopes and dreams. It's on being able to have a stable budget. So I'm preserving the thing that we've built that keeps everyone safe and that has the response and has the efficiency and has the productivity that the people of this parish deserve to have. Not a 10th rate funded DA's office that we are the 4th largest judicial district in the state. And I'm going to have a fraction of the funding of all the larger DA's offices and not have the ability to preserve what we've built.
Yeah.
And I've been smart and saved for a rainy day, but I know the time clock that's ticking down on that ability. And I think I would be negligent not to be doing what I'm doing and not to be bringing awareness. And I would say at a minimum, if nothing else happens, the review of this district, just as one example, when the parish council was going to them to ask them to reduce their millage from 3.10 to into the 2s, and they said, "Who do you think you are? We are a state agency," and wouldn't do it, and it's in the minutes that then they were only able to do it or willing to do it to 3.01. The fact that they're now willing to reduce it to 2.27 after this report, case in point. Mm-hmm. Case in point. You refused to do it before. You were offended at the ask by the people who appoint you. But now all of a sudden, you know what? 2.27 sounded a little bit better than 3.10. And that brings it from 9.6 down to 7.5. So somehow, without agreeing, I feel like we've come to an agreement. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can point to is that
Progress.
a 3-inch binder of evidence-based information was collected. And now we have a result. And for the first time, all of a sudden there's a conversation about having cooperative endeavor agreements. And the example I give is that these guys have a $250,000, call it a marsh buggy piece of equipment, that they've never used one time. The sole purpose of that piece of equipment is if one of these airboats gets stuck, to go pull it out. Meanwhile, over here in another department of the parish, we own something just like it that you could have picked up the phone and said, "Hey, we're stuck. Can someone assist?" But the way we're structured, it's, oh, nope, he's got his own thing, own structure,
efficiencies,
own building.
lack of efficiencies.
It's a mess. Yeah. And I will take the time to the people at the Mosquito Abatement District. I did go tour the Mosquito Abatement District. It is I'm not going to say efficient because I found financially inefficient things. But guys, I got to say, it's well run.
Good.
It's not, I feel like those guys are there to do what they really do think they should be doing. I think they believe they should be involved in all this research and all this stuff. And in a perfect world, if the taxpayers decided we want to be a research facility and invest in all that, and you really, eyes wide open, are telling people that's what we're going to do, so be it.
And with dedicated funding, they had the funds to do it.
They had the money to do it.
Is that what we all agree?
Is
should
that
be happening?
In the climate where your criminal justice system is being gutted, is branching off into research. They're in the process of buying more land to study arthropods. Like, I don't know if
what?
Arthropods. I could be butchering that.
Legal girl. I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let us know. Who
Needs versus wants.
Let us know if they need somebody help with the closing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, we got to run to the next one, man. I think that people are going to learn a lot from this conversation, and
hope so.
if people want to have further conversations, then they know
Yeah.
where to find you.
And
And
there's more ways to find information. I know that the Chamber PAC, separate from the Chamber, but the actual Political Action Committee has put out a bunch of information. I think they have a podcast that can be visited to gather information there as well. But thank you. We appreciate your time and the explanation.
Appreciate y'all's time.